Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. General Sibanda is in the media, social media today, speaking against corruption. I think as a nation, we need to have an honest debate on issues if we are ever going to make any meaningful progress. Does he seriously expect anyone to believe that he and his fellow army officers believe that there is no corruption? That this whole thing, the problem we have in Zimbabwe, is all about anti-corruption? Let's just listen to what he has to say.
That which we had, that value of sharing, that was being cultivated amongst us. It's unfortunate that after independence, some of us went wayward and we started amassing wealth, we started getting involved in corruption and so on. But we were taught to share. And it's a value that a lot of us retain today.
No. Let's be clear on that. Corruption is not a value, or anti-corruption is not a value that the top brass in the army, the police, the CIO, the prison services, and many other people in other various sectors of Zimbabwe's social and political community value. Corruption is rampant, and is rampant in the army as just as it is rampant in the police and so forth. We cannot keep on creating these smoke screens to hide the real issues. The 2017 military coup, which he was involved, as well as the present VP, Chiwenga, and many others in the army were involved, was premised on the assumption, or rather the smokescreen, that it was to remove criminals around Mugabe. That was just a smokescreen. The true purpose of the 2017 coup was Operation Restore Legacy, as the coup plotters themselves dubbed it, which in layman's language was restore power. Chunichelu. Zimbabwe has been corrupted. Zanu PF corrupted many of the country's state institutions, including the army, the police, the CIO, the prison services, turning them into departments of Zanu PF in all but name. And the top brass in those four security sectors services have been in the Joint Operations Command, which is just a junta that has been wielding the power behind the Zanu PF regime. There was nothing constitutional about the Joint Operations Command. The top brass in Chok knew their number one purpose is to fight in Zanu PF's corner, to promote Zanu PF's interests. And General Sibanda will not deny that is indeed the case. Here is his predecessor, Zvinavashe, endorsing that very notion.
We wish to make it very clear to all Zimbabwean citizens that the security organization will only stand in support of those political leaders that will pursue Zimbabwe's value, traditions, belief, for which thousands of lives were lost in pursuit of Zimbabwe's hard-won independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the national interest. To this end, let it be known that the highest office on the land is a straitjacket, whose occupant...
We know what he meant by that. Only those with Liberation War credentials would aspire to be president of the Republic of Zimbabwe. A clear endorsement of the army support of Zanu PF, de facto one-party state. Here is another one of the army top brass reminding us that Zanu PF and the army are the left hand and the right hand of the same Zanu PF dictatorship.
Zanu PF itatonga kusika madonge ameranya. Muchida musingadi. Ameni. Apanda kutaura sakomanda army. Shashandisa inonzi command 40. Yes. Yeah.
Don't need to go any further. The truth of the matter is, as much as those four security services, sectors, have been part of JOC, they've been faithful to the Zanu PF leadership. And it is no surprise that whenever there is factional fighting within Zanu PF, they have found themselves having to pick sides. And in this case here, they've picked sides on the basis of which side will serve them best. Operation Restore Legacy. Operation Restore Power. Chinuchelu. That has been the main focus. The idea that in Zanu PF, one could be neutral is completely out of the question. In 2017, it was becoming increasingly clear that G40 were sick and tired of the top brass in the army. And they wanted to ease them out of power. Lacoste turned to those people and said to them, support our faction, and your positions will be secure. 8 years down the line, the army store brass are once again feeling the pressure. Mnangagwa and his group have separated themselves. And the army has got to make a decision. Which side is it going to support? This is Operation Restore Legacy Mark II. That is the bottom line here. Yes, talk about this anti-corruption, but this is just a smokescreen. Just as much as the 2017 coup was not about ending corruption in Zanu PF. What criminals did the coup remove? Corruption has become even worse under the Mnangagwa. And let's face it, one of their own men, the army, VP Chiwenga, is in the present Mnangagwa administration. He is the one who was waiving the constitution just a few days before staging the coup. A number of army officers were in the post-coup, immediate post-coup government. Yes, after the 2018 elections, a number of the army guys lost their positions. And after 2023, even more were sidelined. And so now the army is feeling the pressure. But please, let's have an honest debate on this issue. If the army is going to take the Chiwenga faction of Zanu PF and support it, it should do so, but please stop pretending that it is doing so because it's fighting to end corruption. That is a lie. I think the people of Zimbabwe should be treated with respect. And that respect has got to start with having an honest debate. If the army is serious about ending corruption, oppression, it must accept that the army should desist from being involved in politics. The army has played its role in creating and imposing the de facto one-party state, the de facto Zanu PF one-party state in Zimbabwe. The 2017 military coup, the army sided with one faction of Zanu PF. It did not stamp out corruption because it was benefiting from corruption. It's only speaking about corruption now because it feels left out. We can't have this cycle of people standing up and pretending that they are fighting the people's corner, fighting to end corruption, oppression of the masses, only to consolidate their power and then allow the same corruption and oppression to continue. The army has played its role in imposing this de facto one-party state in Zimbabwe. I think the army should seriously now consider its position. It should have nothing to do with these Zanu PF factional wars. The same applies to the police, to the CIO, and the prison services. The number one priority in Zimbabwe today is to dismantle the Zanu PF dictatorship. And that includes cutting the ties between Zanu PF and the army and the police, the CIO, etc., etc. That is what dismantling the Zanu PF dictatorship means. And I think people of Zimbabwe should not be fooled by people who today are fighting in your corner. Tomorrow, they're the ones who are denying the masses their very humanity. We need to address our problems in a more honest and serious manner. We do not want another coup in Zimbabwe. We did not want the 2017 coup. It was only necessary because the army itself, the police, the CIO, had played their part in imposing the Zanu PF dictatorship, in propping up the dictatorship, in keeping Mugabe in power. What happened in 2017 was just a swap of one dictator with another. The corruption, mismanagement, the oppression, vote rigging, everything continued. And now we're facing another possibility of history repeating itself yet again. So-called Geza uprising. And at the end of the day, we're going just to swap Mnangagwa with Chiwenga. Please don't insult our intelligence and try to pretend that the army does not know that VP Chiwenga is corrupt, incompetent, and a tyrannical thug, just like Mnangagwa and Mugabe before him. We refuse to accept this hypocrisy that whenever you feel the pressure to take sides with one faction or the other of Zanu PF, you want to occupy the moral high ground of pretending that you are now reverting to the values and principles of the liberation war. When your colleague there, Sanyatwe, was talking of rigging the elections to make sure that Zanu PF stays in power, what did the army do or say to reprimand him? Indeed, you cannot swear that the army top brass are not corrupt. No, that the army top brass have not played their part in rigging elections on behalf of Zanu PF. They've known all these things all along. We need to make progress as a nation and cannot keep on going over the same thing over and over again because we pretend to see or not to see things cherry pick as we go along. I repeat, this Gaza uprising is just a repeat of the 2017 coup. It will not accomplish anything other than just swapping one dictator with another. And if anyone thinks that is making progress, they need their heads examined. Thank you. Have a good day.